in the group? Are we really last minute call? So thank you, Jill, for joining me and being my best supporter ever with my last minute crazy ideas. And let me introduce you, Jill. Jill has been in the group for a good while, well, from the very beginning. So Jill is one of our foundation members, and we have been friends for about 5 years, something like that, I think. Yes, and we went to a dog training course because we are just learning junkies together, and that's where we met. And I just fell in love with Jill's personality, with her knowledge, with her expertise, with her. And you guys will see in a minute what Jill can bring to the table. So, Jill, would you introduce yourself in a?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. And my name is Jill, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Anita. That was most kind. I have owned and worked with dogs for about 30 odd plus years. So that makes me ancient. So that's just the way it is. But I started training dogs about 5 years ago, as Anita did. And as she said, we met on a course together, and the rest is history. So since then, I've gone down the rabbit hole of being a course junkie and studying course after course after course after course, which is lovely. And I work with dogs now. I am self-employed, and I work with a lot of problem dogs, some shut down, some just normal behavior problems. And I get a lot of vet referrals from my local vet, which is fabulous. I think our topic this evening is about working with or welcoming multi-dogs to the household, and also having a little chat about black dogs and how others perceive them. Now, I at the moment have 3 totally black and 1 almost black with white legs and a few other white patches on him. But I've also had several other black dogs in the past. And what is interesting about those is that if you talk to shelters and rehoming centres, it's always the black dogs that are last to be rehomed. So quite sad, really. So tonight, I think we're in for a nice little interesting chat about my multi-dog household with my 3 regulars and a foster, and then about how dogs perceive black dogs and their body language.
Yes, and this foster dog is your new latest addition. Yeah. But basically, you had the 2 girls, the 2 giant schnauzers, as the first setup, and then Zuma joined as a puppy. And just recently, you have added Moose a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Did you do anything differently how you introduced Moose compared to how you introduced Zuma when he was a tiny puppy?
For sure. When I got Zuma, he was only 8 weeks old. And so when I brought Zuma into the house, I put up an X-pen in my kitchen, and I got a licky mat and a few little things for him to do in the X-pen. And then I put a second barrier of separation, so that when the 2 older girls came in, they also had something to do. They had licky mat and different things they could sniff and kind of look at. So the dogs could see each other without going nose to nose or rushing over to the puppy and flattening him. So we started off that way, and that worked really well. They were all quite okay around each other, watch the body language, all very relaxed. Then I took the second barrier away and let them go nose to nose through the X-pen, and that went fine. And then I took them out into the garden 1 at a time. So it was puppy and 1 dog, puppy and the other dog. And that all went fine. And then gradually all 3 together. And they were pretty good from day 1. They were no problem at all. They accepted the puppy. They all got on very well. And I think he learned quite a lot from them, having those wiser older dogs around him. Well, I say wiser and older. One's a bit of a crazy lady, but the other one is quite sensible and very good at dog behaviours and with puppies and all that kind of stuff. So between them, they have a great relationship. When I brought Moose in a couple of months ago, he was kind of an emergency foster through one of my husband's colleagues at work. His owner had to go into hospital and had some chronic illness that meant he could no longer keep him. So he was desperate for a quick rehoming where somebody could look after him. So long story short, we took him. So I wasn't able to do the normal intros or little visits or meet on neutral ground several times before. So I brought him home, and obviously moving house is quite traumatic for any dog. They come away from everything they know, their family, any other familiar dogs at the house, pets, other animals, etc. And he wasn't used to car journeys. He only ever went from the house to the field just around the corner. So he wasn't used to lead walking either. He was very used to lots of dogs. He lived with 2 toy dogs, and the people that had him before would board for other people as well. So there was a regular turnover of different dogs in the house. He is very dog social, and he seems to get on with every dog on the planet except my German Shepherd, which is sod's law, I'm afraid. So him coming home, I brought him home, and obviously he needed to come out, have a little bit of a settle and what have you. In hindsight, there were lots of things I would do differently, but I'll tell you what I did and where it went wrong. And then I will reflect on what I would definitely do differently next time. So we got home after a 3-hour drive, and I let him get out of the car, took him for a little walk, obviously just to familiarise him with the area, etc. Got him a little bit settled, and then I introduced him to my very sociable, well-managed schnauzer, who I thought they would be fine together, and they were. So I took them out. We've got a field behind our house, which is kind of neutral turf. So I took him off the premises, and the 2 of them had a nice meeting, all good. Then I took her indoors, swapped for the other schnauzer, equally good, which is interesting because she's a bit of a Marmite dog, which we'll talk about in a bit, but they also got on fine. So the big equation was meeting my German Shepherd, who is actually very, very sweet temperament, but can be a little wary of other dogs. And that was never used to be like that until about 6 months ago, when he got attacked by a dog, and that kind of changed him a little bit. So I got my husband to walk my German Shepherd and give him a good, nice bit of exercise, get him kind of settled and calm, again in a neutral area. And then I was going to come along with Moose on the lead and meet them on neutral turf and see how they got on. Now, unfortunately, my husband is not so good at being calm with my German Shepherd. So even though they had a nice walk, when they came around the corner into the field and he spotted me, he got quite excited and wanted to come over to me. And of course, I'm walking a dog that he's never seen before. Now, the dog, my foster dog, is called Moose, and my German Shepherd's called Zuma. So Moose was with me. As I say, he wasn't good at walking on the lead, so I put him on a harness because I thought I'd have more control. But it was a harness, a spare one I had. It wasn't one specially bought for him. So it fitted okay, but it wasn't the best fit in the world. So we were out in the field. Zuma's getting very excited because he wanted to come to me. Moose is getting a little bit nervous because he's meeting a strange dog who's making a lot of excitable noises. And anyone who knows German Shepherds knows how vocal they can be when they are excited. So Zuma was very kindly doing a full-on vocal, great to see you kind of greeting, which didn't sit too well with Moose. So Moose was quite nervous and started growling at Zuma, even though they were a fair distance away at this time. So in the melee of the excitement, Moose managed to slip his harness and ran across to the German Shepherd, growling and barking, which the German Shepherd thought, hang on a minute, who the hell are you barking at? And it was a very unpleasant greeting. So I managed to get Moose back, get him on the lead. There was no bloodbath or anything, just a lot of noise. But that was their introduction, which obviously is not a great way to introduce 2 dogs. So it really went Pete Tong. So my husband took Zuma home. I took Moose home. We came in 2 different doors and kept them separate. And that was the initial very bad greeting. So I left it for a couple of days and let Moose de-stress from his unhappy experience. He was also very unsettled with the move, and his way of expressing stress was prolific humping. Now, he's quite a big dog, and he literally followed my husband Neil and I around the house constantly humping. I have never seen a dog so prolific as this one. He was like a hedgehog on speed, honestly. He just did not stop humping. And we ended up with a very unprofessional piece of cardboard, which was large. We folded it in half to make a sort of triangle shape, and we used it as a body shield. And every time he tried to hump us, we kind of moved the shield around to where he was. And this went on for about 3 days, which was really sad. And unfortunately, where Moose came from, he had not had any training, and the only thing he could do if you asked him was to sit. So he didn't have an off switch. So you couldn't ask him to lay down. You couldn't ask him to relax in any way. He wasn't crate trained. So it was quite a challenge to get him to calm down without his own natural choice to do so. So because I didn't have any option to do that, I allowed him to make those choices. I gave him a room where it was a safe place. He had a nice comfy bed. He had water, food, all the rest of it. And gradually, after 2 or 3 days, he did start to settle and relax. And during that time, we did not allow the 2 dogs to see each other because it was just too traumatic. So after about 2 or 3 days, when he'd stopped his prolific humping and started to be more relaxed, I started to take him out doing a bit of walking. I made sure I had a perfectly fitted harness for him. But he's also a lead chewer. So because he's not used to walking on a lead, as soon as you put a lead on him, he turns around and chews through it. And he can get through a fabric lead in seconds. So I bought him a metal lead that he couldn't chew through. And again, I do believe it's a bit of a stress thing with him. When he doesn't know how to behave and when he's over aroused, he redirects to bite or hump something, but not in a vicious way. He's not bitey with people or anything like that. So started doing a bit of walking with him. I managed to introduce him to a long line, so he could go on a long line sniffy walk, and that went really well. Surprisingly, he picked up recall really fast, and he was quite good at returning to me when we went out. So I spent a few days just getting to know him, building a bit of a relationship with him, getting him able to walk on a lead, getting him used to his harness, and that was the start. So after about a week, we started going out on parallel walks out in the New Forest, big open area. So Neil would take Moose and go first, and they'd have a little walk on their own. I would take Zuma, go for a walk, let him kind of get a bit of energy out. And then after about 20 minutes or so, we would meet at a certain point in the New Forest, probably with a good 50 meters between us, so not close. But they could see each other, smell each other, and we would just walk along. We walked for about an hour like this, just to try and let them calm down and get used to each other. And we did this quite a few times. And we got to the point where they could walk probably about 10, 20 foot from each other, so a lot closer. Zuma, the GSD, was the calmest, believe it or not, and he calmed down quite quickly and was quite happy to let Moose just toddle along beside him. Because Moose doesn't have an off switch, he got very excited when he saw me and would start jumping around, getting very excited and chewing his lead again. So the excitement from Moose aggravated Zuma as well, although he didn't react very much, to be fair. So after many days of this, we got to the point where they were actually both quite calm, and we thought, dare we risk an off-lead meet? So we did, and we let them off, and it wasn't too bad actually, and they did a little bit of boy posturing, and then they trotted around quite happily. And we thought, yahoo, we've cracked it, this is going to go well, until we got back near the car park, put the 2 of them on their leads, and the minute they were on their leads, all hell broke loose again. So that clearly wasn't the right thing to do either. So I think looking back, there's probably several things I would do differently. Since then, we have given them a lot more space, and they're still not in the same room. We've stopped walking them together, and we've tried to give them a really long stress holiday. Interestingly, with Moose, I've taken him out and about to many places. He's met many dogs, and he's really good. If you're out and he's loose off lead, he's fine with all dogs. If a dog gets a bit sniffy and growly, he just walks off. He's not bothered. But what is interesting is he's met several male dogs I know who are quite placid. I've never heard growl at other dogs, chose to growl at Moose, which is quite unusual, and I was very surprised. And I think he must be one of those dogs that gives off quite strong pheromones, which other male dogs don't like and react to. So he came to us in September. About a fortnight ago, I decided to get him neutered to see if that would help change things by changing the hormone balance and hopefully making him more acceptable to other male dogs. So since the neutering, I haven't let the two boys meet. So he's probably just about healed now. And then after he's healed up, we're going to try and do a little bit more desensitizing to each other and work with them to see if we can make peace. So it's been a really long road, and I've had him now 2.5 months. What has been very, very difficult is the sort of rotation in the house. We have double barriers on every door. So we have child gates and a door at each opening. We make sure they go in and out different doors, but I do rotate them around the house so they don't get territorial over one spot in the house. But if they see each other through glass, they bark at each other without any kind of provocation or anything. They will instantly start barking at each other. So my hopes for eternal friendship are not high, if I'm honest. But that's kind of where we are today.
No, you have been doing such a great, you've just been amazing to give a home to this dog and offer the best for him. And sometimes it's just despite all our best wishes and all our best intentions and even the best setups, it just doesn't work out. And that is absolutely fine. But basically the process, that how you have explained that what you have been doing, introducing the two basically adult dogs. Zuma is just out of the teenager phase, sort of turning into complete adult male dog. This is exactly the process that how we should start introducing them. So it is just an unfortunate thing that unfortunately I haven't got any data. I don't know if you have got any data that probably there is no data at all. There is no, I don't think there is any research on that how many dogs of the how many dogs in introduced to a new multi-dog family are not able to be incorporated or happily live together in a well-managed situation. Because
I've never found any data on that. I'd be really interested. And I mean, I'm not a regular foster carer, so I'm sure people who foster dogs on a regular basis may have a bigger input on that from personal experience. But this was a first for me. But because his history was a very friendly dog, I was optimistically hopeful that they would get along together. Yes. I think what also made it slightly worse was one day when I was out, Neil left some of the barriers open and they had a bit of a scrap in a room and he had to separate them. So that also set us back quite a long way from where we were. So I think that is the thing about management. It will fail when you have a house where this is going on. The other downsides are we can't have guests or visitors in the house because you can't trust that somebody won't leave a door open.
Yep.
And if they left a door open, the consequences could be horrendous because they're two very large dogs. Mm-hmm. It's very exhausting because you're constantly moving rooms, moving items around. My husband and I hardly see each other because we keep them in two pairs and rotate the schnauzers between the boys. So invariably he's in one half of the house, I'm in the other. And so it's a very, very exhausting process. Whenever you go anywhere or go out, you have to consider who's in which part of the house when you come home. It is a very, very exhausting process to have that kind of set up. I think for me, if I ever did it again, I think I would probably have given the foster dog a week or two to decompress before I did any introductions. And so that's a definite lesson that I can learn from there. And I think by allowing him to decompress for longer and really have a decent stress holiday, get to know his environment, I think possibly we would have had a better encounter. Obviously, under normal circumstances, I would do more phased intros before bringing him into the house. So you can do a bit more of a chemistry test before you get where we are. But I think because it was an emergency one due to a medical situation, and the prognosis sounded really hopeful, I probably naively wasn't cautious enough with that greeting. So for me, that's definitely a lesson learned. My long-term view is I think the chances of them ever becoming best pals are slim. And I think if I was to achieve that, it would take an awful lot of work and desensitization and lots of different things to kind of get them used to each other. And even if they did kind of get to the point where they tolerated each other, I'm not entirely sure I would trust around guests or anything like that, because if something just sparked an incident, then I think it would be quite fraught. And bearing in mind, while he is a doodle, he's a Bernese mountain dog crossed with a poodle. Bernese mountain dog is a guardian breed. So although they're quite chilled and happy to lay around and do nothing most of the time, they still have a guarding defensive mechanism within their wiring. And so with Zuma also being a German Shepherd, if the two did decide to go at it, I think it would be quite a nasty encounter. I don't think it'd be good. So one of the problems I have is that my husband absolutely adores this dog, as do the rest of his family, and they would like to keep him. My view is that he should be rehomed for the welfare of everyone, really. He's a young dog, and I think that's also partly the problem. He's very similar age to Zuma, both two entire males on the peak of adulthood. And I think that may also have caused a little bit of a problem. So the neutering may surprise me and make a difference. It may not. But I think long term, for the dynamics of the house, the safety of everyone concerned, I have little grandchildren that come in the home, 1 and 3 years old. As they get bigger, they could, even when they're at this age, leave a door open, do something. And I would hate to think of consequences. So I think for me, it's a definite rehome, but it would have to be the right home because he's a very, very sweet dog. I don't want him to be traumatized constantly and go from home to home as this traumatized problem dog, when actually he isn't. In the right home, he'd be a very lovely pet. And that's what I'd have to find for him. So that's where I am today.
Yeah, it is a really tough decision, and heartbreaking sometimes, but we just get to do the best decision, what is best for the dogs, best for us. Absolutely. Best for everybody, best for the existent dogs. Right. So if we go back a bit in time when they were first met, to each other, and there was a miscommunication between the two dogs, basically.
Yeah.
Do you think that it can be taken into account? What is the word I'm looking for? Account. Yeah. That Zuma is completely black, and also Moose is a poodle head.
Yeah.
Poodles plus the black together, they are really difficult to read.
Yes, I think that could well have something to do with it. Zuma is totally black. He was also very excited at the time of the greeting, which I would never allow an excitable greeting. But unfortunately, the circumstances, that's what we had. So it wasn't a choice greeting, but that's how it happened. Black dogs are very hard to read. Moose, as I say, had the disadvantage of being stressed by moving with strange humans, strange dogs, strange place, long car journey, etc. He does have a black face and quite a shaggy face. So again, not easy to read. I think his reaction was fear, and that's why he started growling and barking, because he was afraid of Zuma. He probably couldn't read Zuma very well because he literally is jet black. He hasn't got any other colour on him. So I think that does make a difference. And looking at the black colour, I can give you a fabulous example of where they're hard to read. I've got two schnauzers who look like bookends, as you saw in the photograph. However, their personalities could not be further apart. Now, Wespa, who's the one that is really well sort of balanced. She's got a lovely temperament. She's good with puppies, adults, male, female. She is very good at splitting when two dogs meet. If they're not behaving, she will happily go between them and sort them out. She's got just wonderful, wonderful dog manners. And you go out with Wespa and she's brilliant with all dogs. Dogs never object to her, even though she's jet black. She doesn't ruffle feathers, and she's just an all-round bulletproof dog. Wilma, who looks exactly the same, and Wespa I've had from 8 weeks old. Wilma I got when she was just under a year, didn't have the best start in life, was very nervous and excitable when I got her. So her dog manners are nowhere near as good as Wespa's, and she still has a slightly nervous disposition, which I think was due to her first year of life. And as a breed, if they're not socialized early, their guarding instincts and nervousness will stay. They become quite suspicious of strangers, and Wilma definitely has that. But once you know her, she's the sweetest little thing on the planet. But the point is, the reaction she gets from other dogs is totally different. And one day, they instantly take a dislike to her, most dogs, without her doing anything, just by looking at her. One look is enough. And one day I was out with her in Salisbury, and we'd walked through the park. She was on a lead, walking beautifully beside me, as you know, I couldn't be prouder of her. She was just walking along nicely, loose lead, very happy. There's a little pathway that goes along beside the river. And as we were walking along there, a couple came towards us with a spaniel off lead. And the spaniel was trotting along, took one look at Wilma, who, as far as I'm aware, didn't do anything. If she did some sort of dog language, I was oblivious to it. This spaniel took one look at Wilma, yelped, and jumped in the river. And there was this almighty splash. I was really shocked, and I think Wilma was shocked. We kind of looked at what the hell was that? The owners were furious and started shouting at me to get my dog under control, who hadn't actually done anything. Fortunately, on the side of the river, there was like a little brick ledge, and the spaniel was able to jump out and was absolutely fine. But that is the kind of reaction she gets from other dogs. She didn't growl, she didn't bark. If she did make some sort of eye contact that I missed, but it was a very relaxed lead. Her demeanor was very relaxed. And everyone was very surprised that this little spaniel just jumped in the river. So I think many dogs find black dogs hard to read, and particularly Wilma, it seems. So yeah, they are all different. Yeah. But big, muscular black dogs are quite scary to many dogs. So, yeah.
Yes, they are. So it is not a myth that my dog is okay, apart from that black lab in the park, and it's not that because that dog was charging. They might have some previous learning, the learning history, which we don't know, and they just generalize it to other black dogs. But definitely, black dogs have got that reputation among other dogs. But basically, that is the main reason why, because they just absolutely can't read anything on the face. Plus,
the beard.
Have got beard. Yes, exactly. They have got the hair on their faces, just like poodles, because that's my poodles. Plus, if you add the black, it is becoming more and even more difficult. I have got a toy poodle. He has been growled at for no reason. And probably that was exactly the same thing, that the other dog just didn't know what to do or where to put him. And the thing is that he's just a toy, so he's not really threatening by size to any other dog really. And also his disengagement skills are absolutely fabulous. So he just turns around. He doesn't even go over to sniff other dogs, but he lets other dogs sniff him, and then he just walks away. So it is definitely hard, because sometimes nothing else shows us. So the first signs in the body language are the ears will move, the back, or the what is the bottom of the ear? The base of the ear, thank you. The base of the ear will move. And probably we don't even notice. And especially with dogs that have got like floppy ears, not the ears,
the pointy ones.
Yeah. It is even more difficult to see that where actually they are pointing at, in which direction, because sometimes they are not doing anything else, that one ear is moving a bit forward, the other one is moving backwards, like asking guidance for, have you seen that? What is that? Have you seen that? What is happening, without even moving their eyes. Is just the ear flick, like, okay, taking guidance from us, that's what actually we are going to do in that situation. And we probably don't even notice what the dog is telling us, because it is just so subtle. And then the dog just starts to escalate the body language. And so it is absolutely a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
It is a tough one.
Yeah. So always a challenge. but yeah, it is funny how dogs react to Wilma. Very much so. Yeah. And with Vespa, it's totally different. Unlike your poodle, Vespa's very good at disengaging. So if a dog shows any sign of not wanting to engage or growling or any other behavior, she kind of just shrugs her shoulders and walks off. And I think because she's a large dog, if she walks off in the other direction, they're just going, oh, okay. They don't, pursue it or do anything. Whereas if a small dog growls or barks at Wilma, she will retaliate. So, and it's also interesting that, as I say, my husband's not a dog trainer, and while he loves dogs, he doesn't have a lot of experience of working with them or reading body language or anything. And Wilma is definitely more insecure out with Neil than she is with me. Mm-hmm. So when I go walking with Wilma, I never have any growling, snarling, any other behaviors. I don't have any bad interactions with dogs, but she does when she's with Neil. So there's also a big difference in our human behavior. So where the dogs pick up on our anxieties, our tensions, whether we're calm, how we react, that is clearly reflected in our dog's behavior. So for some pet owners who may be anxious about what their dog will do in a given situation, actually exacerbates the dog's negative behavior, because it picks up on the tension from the human or the tension down the lead, and it just gets worse and worse by the second.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that you are getting this from pet parents as well, just as I do, that, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that I am doing something wrong, or I have done something wrong with the dog, because the dog is just only reacts when I'm taking, and then he just saying, no, you are not doing anything wrong. It is not, you are not making your dog more reactive. It is just the dog is picking up, probably it is traveling down on the lead, or what we don't even notice when we just take a firmer grip, just that is just unconscious, because that's what we do. Our body is different, so our body language is pretty much similar, apart from moving the ears. I can't do that. Some people can do it. I definitely can't do that. But where was I? What was I saying?
Anxiety from people.
Yeah, our body language is exactly the same, and that's why dogs can read our body language so much, and that's why they rely so much on our visuals. So, and that's why when people say that oh, my dog can read every of my thought. Yes, your dog actually exactly knows what you are going to do before you even know what you are going to do, because we are just giving out so many signals that the dogs are reading, because they are always watching us. They are always watching what is happening, what is next, because we are just such a crucial part of their life, and that's why that I loved it so much that you said that probably next time what you would do is just give a good cortisol break, cortisol holiday for the new dog, just to completely calm down. And that's why giving them a separate place away.
Definitely.
But they don't need to watch what is happening all the time. Don't need to be vigilant, even when they are asleep, and they are not asleep, because they are still listening what is happening, or half eye open just to look at the movement. So there is always something going on, and that is just always bringing that cortisol level up a bit, and then down a bit. So it is just tiring. It is very difficult for them. And let me just check the Facebook. It is saying now playing, but the screen is completely black. I'm not sure if it is. Let me just start Facebook again. It might be just. Oh no, we are there. We are absolutely there. Okay, dog. Oh, there are comments. Oh, I just had to restart my thing.
Okay.
Eva is here. Thank you very much. I can't even see for some. There are 2 people here. Sorry, guys. The late. Eva is saying, and Annika is saying, mine has problem with some black big dogs, but he was attacked by them several times. So that is definitely a negative learning history. Let me just pick up something on the floor. Oh, she's really good at spitting these knuckles out, but I just pick it up just in case. She's not as a gopher anymore as she used to be, but once we had that experience, we just want to be cool and better be cautious anyway with everything, especially when they have got to choose. So definitely keeping the dog separately.
And I sorry, that's my dogs now. I also know with Zuma, because he's quite excitable, they're playing the bitey head game on the floor.
Yeah, that's I got to have the bitey head.
When I introduce Zuma to another dog, if we're out, I would never introduce him when he first gets out of the car. He's too excitable. So I always take him off quietly somewhere on a long line, let him decompress, have a little sniff. It only takes him a couple of minutes, and he's so much better. And then he comes down. And then if we meet somewhere neutral, and they can have a nice, safe greeting. But if he gets out the car and a dog rushes to him as he gets out the car and he's all excited, it never goes well. It's just not nice. He cannot control his emotions that well at the moment. So I'm hoping that's something that will improve as he matures. And it also depends what he's done that day. So, with all your dogs, if you've had a very excitable day, if their stress bucket is overflowing, and then you go out and try to introduce them to a dog, it's never going to go well.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've had a nice calm day, they've done some sniffy work, had something that really makes them nice and relaxed, then you introduce, your chances are much higher for success, I think.
Unless you're Spraggan.
There's always the exception to the rule. And, but I think for dogs generally, I think that's something also to bear in mind, because when Zuma got attacked, the little dog that attacked him was actually a French bulldog. And this little bulldog lives in a very stressful environment, and he's constantly over threshold. Yeah. So when he's let loose with other dogs, he may be able to play for about 5 minutes, and then he goes over threshold and redirects. Yeah. And he's done it many times, but unfortunately his owners think it's okay and they don't see there's a problem.
Yeah.
And so when you meet dogs like this that are loose and they come shooting out of nowhere, and you have your dog on a lead or off the lead, and your dog's the innocent party, it can have quite a detrimental effect. Sorry. Thank you very much, you two. So I do think it makes a huge difference as a dog carer that you know what your dog's been up to, you know what your dog's state of mind is, you know what their reactions are, and learn how to read your dog so you can set them up for success when you're out and about. And if your dog isn't good with other dogs, don't greet them. Simple, teach your dog to be indifferent, teach your dog to walk past another dog. They don't have to say hello to every dog on the planet. It's not necessary.
Exactly. That is so well said. They don't need to be friends. They don't need to greet each other. We don't greet each other. We can walk past people and don't greet each other. Or we sometimes get the odd ones who we don't know and they say friendly good morning, and then we say friendly good morning to you as well, and then we walk past and that's it. Sometimes we have a lovely chat. It all depends how we are just reading each other, but then again there are just sometimes those anxious conversations when somebody just stops you and wants to have a lovely chat and you don't want to have a chat. So and we just want to do and get away from it. So dogs are exactly the same, just they are showing their preferences with their teeth, with their mouth, with the whole body. Basically their whole body is communicating, and if we are not reading, it just starts escalating. So that's how we exactly introduced Wilma and Spraggan to each other. And they had a fabulous time. Absolutely, they were so awesome together. They were awesome, and they were just a couple of feet away from each other, and they knew that we were together because they were checking out on each other when we stopped. Hey, where is Wilma? That was really nice to see each other. And when they got close enough, they just turned around. Okay, let's walk. They kept themselves. They kept that certain distance, and they didn't even want to close that distance. So they were absolutely happy with that. That we are walking together, but we don't need to meet each other. They didn't want to meet each other. That was so interesting to watch.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It was amazing that they didn't want to meet each other at all.
No.
They were respecting each other's space, but they were looking out for each other in a kind way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was.
No, we have to go because they have to hurry up because they are there. And once we got to that certain distance, then Spraggan slowed down. Okay, we are here. That's fine. I don't want to go any closer.
No, it's very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dog interactions are fascinating, I think, and the dynamics of groups of dogs as well is incredible. And thank you, you two. Thank you very much. Sorry, they're getting rather noisy. But yeah, it's fascinating how dogs, watching them communicate, seeing how they interact with each other. But I do think as humans, we can influence that hugely by how we engineer the greeting or not. So, and I think your best friend is a U-turn. If you get in a situation where you see a dog coming, or you're in a narrow pathway or doorway or gateway or whatever, and you think, this is not good, U-turn, just go the other way. And even if it means you have to walk 100 yards back down the road or whatever around the corner, for me, I'll always opt for the safe, quiet element because I don't want my dog practicing unsavory greetings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear it so many times from pet parents that, what I was told to ask my dog in to sit and look at me, and then let the other dog go past. I personally don't like this, and I don't. It can go absolutely well with some dogs, but when it's not, it can look not that pretty, because sitting is not a natural dog behavior.
Nope.
It sounds as weird as it is. It is not a natural dog behavior. So if you just keep a journal just for a day and you just start marking how many times your dog chooses to sit.
Yeah.
It's a learned behavior. Your dog will sit when you are preparing the food. Your dog will sit if he was taught when you are going towards the door. So it is a learned behavior. They are not choosing to sit. They sit when they are expecting something, because it's just like how cats learn to meowing. Cats don't meow. Cats using this meow voice just for the humans.
Yeah.
When cats talk with each other, there is no meowing there.
No.
They use a growly sort of, they use a completely different language. There is a cat-human language and a cat-cat language.
Well, with Zuma, I did the sit study for 24 hours. And I don't ask him to sit. I rarely ask my dogs to sit. If we're crossing a road and he stands next to me, that's fine. I don't ask him to do any of those things. So for 24 hours, I watched and I monitored, obviously not in the night because I didn't stay up that well. But in the waking hours of 24, I did a sit study with him. And in 24 hours, he chose to sit 7 times on his own. And when he did those sits, most of the time, it was in the garden. He sat and looked out across the field. So he had his back to the house and he was looking across the field. He loves being out in the garden. He spends hours out there. And so his choice is to sit and look. Now, it's also quite a juvenile behaviour that dogs will sit and look at something. And I've got a few clients' dogs who, when they want to see something, they will often choose to sit and just look at what they're looking at. And so for him, he must have been about 15 months old when I did it. Of his own choice, 7 times. But a lot of people, like you say, they ask for the sit every time they cross a road, to get in the car, to get out the house, to get in the door, to have their food. There's 100 reasons why they do it. And like you say, it's not their natural choice. So
yes, I forgot to say that is the natural choice for the guardian dogs.
Yeah,
because that is the natural demeanor for the stock guardian to sit on, unless they are lying down and overlook the herd. But sitting is more alert type of watching. I'm here. I'm just letting you know my Caucasian Shepherd. He was sitting under the bush, watching overlooking 2 people outside the fence, and I was going home and I was, why are these 2 strange men standing in front of my gate? Not the gate, the fence. And just chatting. It was just so weird, out of the blue. Just didn't understand where my dogs are and what actually my dogs are doing in this situation. It was a hot summer. Said okay, but they should be still working. It's just not a good excuse. And anyway, I went in, and the dog basically was that far off from the fence. The nose was about just a few inches away from the fence, sitting facing the man, all covered in the big bush, that big monster shepherd, just sitting there quietly. So I'm just waiting for my turn. They are fine as long as they are not doing anything, not trying to come closer. Yeah. But he was keeping an eye on them. So that is the more alert for every stock guardian or every guardian dog. So yeah. Thank you for adding that. That is an amazing observation. So there's so much to learn about.
I know. Fascinating.
Yeah. So I think we can just never stop educating people. Just spreading
one thing that I would sometimes use in an emergency, if I feel I'm really in a narrow space and there's nowhere to go, I would sometimes put him in a middle position. With my back to whatever the thing is, or his back to whatever the thing is. And then as he's looking up at me, I will just feed him treats. And therefore he's back to something, no threat coming, and he's occupied. But I will only do that if there's absolutely no escape. And I find that's quite a good position because it's a safe space. It is a sit, but it's not your normal one. And it's a very good way of distracting him while whatever I think he doesn't need to see passes.
Yeah, middle is one of my favorite positions, and it sounds like an amazing trick because it is just so cool when you're asking your dog come into middle. I also teach walking in middle, so I'm not teaching the sit as a default in middle, because when I teach, I found it with my dog that I taught sit in the middle. And then it was really difficult to get her moving. So now I just teach in the stand, and then we can easily add the sit later on. But teach in the stand, because from the stand I can easily get the movement with it. And that way I can even control my dog even more, because I'm just turning my body around. The dog is moving with me, so I can just simply turn. And because they are in middle, basically I'm controlling the dog's head. It's just an invisible head collar. having a head
safe
collar
space,
on the
isn't
dog,
it?
and yes, and just dropping the food, and the catching is there, plus the movement, so the dog is not in a stationary position. My stuff, it doesn't do, and any anxious dog, they just don't do well in stationary or excited
No.
dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. They need
It's
to move.
just such a big gap from being stationary and calm than in the state where they are all of the fuzzy and moving, and so we just need to match their energy. I'm not saying that we need to become frantic, but we can easily manage their energy if we are matching them and then bringing them down slowly. So yeah, definitely middle is my first of call, or just as you said, just teaching them that this way and then just turning around. If it's not responding, then just gently move the dog around, just slide your hand down on the lead, close to them, so it's not dragging, not yanking the dog. Slide your hand down on the lead, and then it's a lot easier to turn the dog, and then just move away until they are ready to take food again. And that is always a good sign to see when they are ready to take food, that their arousal has just come down. Yeah. I think we could chat over these things.
Are there any questions or any things in the chat that people want to say? Or?
No, there is nothing, unless I'm just reloading it again. No. Eva just said that, yes, they don't have to say hello to every dog. Absolutely. So yes. So it was great having you here. Absolutely.
Great being here.
Always love these chats, and we will have plenty of more.
Definitely.
Live as well, but in the live, the two of us, definitely. And catching up with you soon. And thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Bye, Jill. And bye, everybody. If you have got any questions, then please drop your questions in the comments. And Jill is in the group, so you can just tag Jill, tag me, and we will be answering your questions. And also, Jill, there is a new thing that you started using that I'm not in your dog training and your dog behavior work. Is that the essential oils?
Which one? Sorry.
Essential oils.
Oh, essential oils. Yeah, I am very interested in zoopharmacognosy. Never say that word. Basically, essential oils where dogs heal themselves. Sorry, I've got Wilma being. This is the Marmite cuddly one that scares everybody to death, but she's a sweetheart. So essential oils are brilliant, and I do like them. And when I've been working with shutdown dogs, I've had great success using essential oils for lots of different things. Yeah. So they can be very calming. They can do lots of things. So yeah, essential oils, zoopharmacognosy, great one. So if you have got any questions regarding this, just contact Jill, or a dog that you think that Jill could help. Contact her, and Jill is available. Yeah. Right. Of course. Have a lovely evening, all. And just one more announcement before we go. Tomorrow, I'm having Sylvia here for our evening chat, and we are going to talk about resource guarding. Oh, nice.
Yes. Okay.
Bye. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.